Hello, happy Monday. It's Robert, and this is my mental health Monday topic, which I'm going to talk about feelings and facts. I think it's a very important discussion to have with the way that the world seems to work now. We have there's a lot of interesting communication with people when they talk about their feelings, and it does tie into mental health type things. So I'd like to start by clarifying some things. So if you're angry and you say that you're angry, that may be true. You obviously know how you feel and you're able to identify your feelings, whether it's anger, happiness, sadness. Some of the other things like ambivalent, that's more complicated to communicate and identify sometimes, especially if you're overwhelmed. So again, it may be true that you're angry, but the reasons why you're angry you may think are true, but in reality they're not. Sometimes, a lot of times with emotions, the reasons why we feel the way we do are generated honestly through insecurities that we have about ourselves. So it may be true that you're angry with somebody because they looked at you a certain way and you interpreted it as them they maybe being upset with you or making fun of you, something like that. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. A lot of emotional reactions are generated through mind reading, and the mind reading is generated through insecurities we have about ourselves, which sometimes people don't want to identify. So feelings may be true what you're feeling, but the reasons behind what you're feeling is where the thoughts happen in your head, and that's what inspires the emotions, and then a lot of miscommunication and misunderstandings, and sometimes arguments or even physical confrontations can come from that. And then in really extreme situations, people get killed because the person's extremely mentally ill, and there's a lot of confusion, and when you have situations, those are kind of rare, but it definitely happens. And I think the misjustice of the situation is we live in a time where there's a lot of empathy, and I think the empathy is awesome. I think empathy is amazing, but when empathy goes to empower insecurities, which it can do, that's where these situations become go from molehills to mountains. And I think that's what's happening a lot in this society. I think, it's wonderful to be compassionate, but there has to be some type of understanding behind that. We all have insecurities and things that we don't like about ourselves. And then with mental illness, the insecurities are, whether it's depression or anxiety, the insecurities are magnified and fuel the depression and the anxiety. If you don't like yourself, and you have low self-esteem and you're depressed and things like that, you're gonna have a lot of thoughts in your head that are fueling that to make that worse. And it goes into a much more difficult time for a person. So what do you do? What do you do to prevent this from happening? Well, I mean, it's important, with mental illness and anything, if you're going through sickness, you want to treat it with a professional. Professionals, especially therapists, will be able to identify, the fact that yes, you're angry about things, but the reasons why you're angry, let's examine and see if they're really based in reality. Sometimes it's difficult for a person to accept that, but that's why you go to therapy. You work on it consistently, and at some point you see that the reasons are not based in reality, they're based in insecurities going on in your head. So that's what I'm gonna stop about, but like people are getting, I know there's a, a slogan out, facts are not feelings, and a lot of people are getting, I guess, the liberal or the left is getting upset with that, and there's, there's a lot of truth to that. I have a lot of liberal I, or ideas that I support, but we can't live in a society where we're acknowledged that the person acknowledge an insecurity, like that person was looking at me funny, I'm gonna beat him up. Okay, it's true, go and do that. No, those are things that need to be identified. People need to know that, they need to really challenge negative thoughts and really put their insecurities under control. I mean, that's why there's so many abusive relationships out there. People are out of control with their insecurities, and they take it out on the person and make them feel like crap, and that's okay for some reason. And then and then the other person allows it to happen, and then it becomes okay, and then it becomes just a big monster where the person's a victim. You know, so I've always tried to keep my insecurities in check, and trust me, I have millions of them. But I've always made it a point to, hopefully, I don't know if I've totally succeeded, but I never intended to make another person feel like crap because of something that I'm feeling about myself. Um, you know, I'm not perfect, I may have, but it's something that I make a point to. If I'm going into a relationship, I do protect the person. Well, not that I need to protect them, but I don't look to put my insecurities on somebody else to make them feel like crap. I do a lot to not have that happen. So I'm gonna stop the video. Feel free to discuss. I think it's an important topic, and if you have something to add to it, please do. I hope everybody got something from this, and you have a wonderful Monday. Bye.